Good evening or morning or afternoon or whatever time this finds you watching this video. My name is Alan Gooding. Welcome to East Texas Dirt Law. I want to make a quick post today. I want to keep it around 5 minutes. I think the last episode we posted ended up being about 18 minutes. That's probably testing the limits of how long people want to listen to me talk, but I thought it was good information. This episode I want to give you some information. It's dealing with real estate, estate planning documents, things that we deal with in my practice, and things that affect most people. But these are things that suggestions I have, tips that I will have for you that from a real estate and probate perspective that you can do yourself. You don't need an attorney to do those. They're just things that you can do, follow up on, habits you can have, and practices you can set up in how you organize your life and your documents that will save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and potentially having to hire an attorney to deal with a lot of things and to sort out things that weren't organized properly in the first place. As always, this is for information only. This is not legal advice. Every situation has its own set of circumstances. If you need specific legal advice for a specific issue, seek counsel with a competent attorney. Call us. We'll be happy to help you. But this is for information only. If you have a specific legal problem, call us and let's talk about it. Start off, let's talk about deeds. We talked about deeds last time in excruciating detail, probably too much detail. But what I want to talk to you about is have your deeds available. Know where they are, be able to get a hold of them and pull them out and produce them at a moment's notice. Same thing with deeds of trust. That's going to be your mortgage that's recorded against your document, as well as easements. You want to be able to find those documents, produce those. If you need to borrow against a piece of property, somebody's going to want to know what the property actually is. If you want to see the easement, how it's described, show how you got title to it. Title companies will typically be able to find that by doing a records request, but it makes everybody's life a lot easier, especially an attorney that doesn't have the benefit of a title plant will be able to move a lot faster and do things for you if you have a copy of that deed available. So any properties you have, it's pretty easy for most people because you just have your home. Maybe you have one extra ranch property or vacation property, but know where those deeds are. That's going to be very, very helpful for anybody. Second thing is you want to file your deeds of record. This is pretty simple for most people who close transactions with a title insurance company, because a title company, just like us, we're going to make sure those deeds get filed after closing. If you buy property and you get title insurance, a escrow officer and a title insurance agent is going to make sure that deed gets filed of record. But oftentimes you're not going through a title insurance company. Sometimes you're just going through an attorney. I've seen many, many files where I picked it up and an attorney prepared a deed back years ago in the chain of title, and it never got filed, or they depended on the client to file it. Make sure those deeds get filed. Another example of deeds that have a tendency not to get filed are deeds that are done homemade. A lot of people do homemade deeds. They use forms on the internet. I would not suggest it, but if you do a homemade deed, if you have a deed prepared and filed without the benefit of an attorney or a title company, make sure it gets filed of record. Another example of a deed that often gets missed are trustees' deeds. This is a deed when you buy property from a trustee sale or a foreclosure on the courthouse steps. The bank is going to take your money, you're going to pay for it. A couple weeks later, they're going to process the trustee's deed. They're going to mail it to you. Very often, that deed is not recorded. They send it to you, and they're counting on you to go down to the clerk's office and getting it filed. Don't miss that opportunity. Make sure to look at it, see if it's been filed. If it has, you're going to see at the top of the document recording information showing a date, a document number, and that sort of thing. If you can't find that and you're not sure, go down and get it filed. If you don't get it filed, what can happen is, and you're thinking this is far-fetched, but I have seen it happen a number of times. Property gets bought, A buys property from B, doesn't file the deed, sticks it in a drawer or puts it in an envelope or puts it in a notebook. It never gets filed of record. And 5 years later, B, who sold it to A, sells it to somebody else. And if that somebody else pays value and has no notice of it, in other words, hasn't no idea that somebody else bought it, they take title over the buyer. You don't want to do that. If you're a buyer, make sure your deed gets filed. Always very, very important. Lien releases. That's another category of a real estate document that have a bad habit of not getting filed. Banks, a lot of times, this is when you pay off, you have a mortgage with the bank, you pay off the lien, the last payment's made, the bank says, okay, we're paid off, we're now going to sign a lien release showing that note has been paid. Our lien, our deed of trust is satisfied, we're now going to release it. They'll sign that document, notarize it, it's all appropriate, has the legal description on it, everything's right. And then what they do oftentimes is just mail it to the borrower. Borrower gets it, says, great, my note's paid off, and they don't file it. No one else knows the note is paid off. Now, very often that can be cured because we can go to the bank, if it's a local bank, and find out, hey, you guys, this loan was paid off. They'll check and say yes, and they'll do another release and we'll file it. But if it's a larger bank or a bank that sometimes goes out of business, that happens. Banks go out of business, they get bought, they get sold, they get put into receivership. It's very often hard to get those releases. If you pay off a loan and the lien gets released, make sure it gets filed. Make sure the lien gets released. That happens a lot of times too, is the lender, if it's a private lender especially, they don't necessarily know they're supposed to release a lien. So make sure that if you have a lien, it gets paid off, that it does get released. And if the release gets signed, that it gets filed of record so that the world is on notice that that lien has been paid off and released. And when you want to borrow against it again or you want to sell it, no one's going to make you pay it off. You're going to have a document that's of record that shows you paid it off. The next thing is, I'm going to shift now to estate planning documents. We're going to talk about bank accounts. Bank accounts are easy to set up where you can transfer title to those accounts, ownership of the funds in those accounts at your death to children, spouses, whoever you want to, by way of a payable on death designation. You can name somebody as a custodial account. That's somebody who can sign and manage checks for you without actually owning the property. And you want to make sure if you have a co-account with somebody that you have a right of survivorship, so that if one of the owners dies, the other party has ownership of all the funds in the account by way of a proper right of survivorship agreement. That can be done directly with the bank. Check your accounts, check your account signature cards, make sure that those accounts are set up the way you want. If you have questions, a good estate planning attorney, we can answer questions about that, but you can often do that directly with the bank. So check with the bank, make sure those accounts are set up the way you like. The last thing I want to talk about, and really the most important thing, are estate planning documents. Estate planning documents are great. Everybody should do them, even if it's just a simple will, powers of attorney, maybe some ladybird deeds or beneficiary deeds, whatever you do. Make sure you do those documents, but for goodness sake, make sure you know where they are, because if you spend $1,000 or more on estate planning documents that accomplish exactly what you want to accomplish, but then you get old, something happens to you, you're not able to manage your affairs, or you pass away, and nobody knows where those documents are, they're not going to do you any good. Wills are not filed of public record. Trusts are not filed of public record. Sometimes there will be deeds showing title into a trust of real estate or equipment or companies and so forth, but trusts themselves are not filed of public record. You've got to know where those documents are. What I tell clients is to prepare what's called a love letter. That's a letter where you write a letter literally to your spouse or your kids, and you simply say, I love you because I love you. I don't want you to have to deal with much. I've taken care of all of this. This is where the trust is. This is where the will is. In fact, I usually advise people to put it in a notebook, all together in one document. Here's the trust. It's right behind this letter. Here's the will. It's right behind this letter. And in addition to that, tell them this is the attorney that you need to call. This is the accountant that prepares my taxes every year that you need to call. This is who handles my books. This is where my prepaid funeral is taken care of at. All you got to do is call the funeral home. They'll take care of everything. Put it all in one place. Make everything really, really easy on your spouse, on your kids, so that they know how to take care of those things if something happens to you. And that will make your life a lot easier. It will make their life a lot easier. These are things you can do without an attorney. I hope that helps you. Take care of all these things yourself. It'll save you tons of time. It'll save your kids and your spouse a ton of time, a ton of money, and make everybody's life a lot easier. And I hope this helps you. We'll see you next time on East Texas Dirt Law. Thank you.